Hey everybody, it's me, Calvin Benson, and welcome back to my big ranking of every single movie I've seen that's released in the year 2024. And we have finally reached the top 5 films of this entire ranking. It's been a long time coming, but finally, we're at the 5 best films of the year. And all the previous parts are, if you want to watch them, in the description. So no more yapping. Here are the next tiers in the Ultimate 2024 movie ranking. Let's just start it. And next up, entering the top 5 best movies of the entire year. And for 5th place, I have A Quiet Place Day 1. Even though I absolutely love the other A Quiet Place movies, even though the plot sounded amazing, I did not expect this film to be this good. I went into this film with high expectations. The concept alone had me see it day one, no pun intended. And I loved the other Quiet Place films, but those films only showed us one family who already had a leg up on everyone else, in a secluded location with rarely anyone else in miles. The movies were fantastic, but the idea of monsters with super hearing and you have to stay quiet has so much potential. So when they announced they would be making a prequel set in New York City, starring people without any advantages, on the first day of the monsters invading, I was very interested. Despite John Krasinski not returning, I still had very high hopes. And let me tell you, this movie exceeded them. I might just say it's better than the first film. It does so much with the premise. This movie is more than just another monster survival movie. It's about coming to terms with dying. It's a metaphor for cancer. It's genius to use the concept of the apocalypse to echo someone dying of cancer. Because for people with cancer, they're already living in the apocalypse. They are already dreading their fate that comes sooner than later. Same with the survivors in this movie, because people with cancer are already living as if it's the end of the world, because it is for them. The plot of these two people trekking this destroyed city with all these monsters, not to escape, but to simply get some pizza for their last moments, is fantastic. Sam has already come to terms with her death, and she knows she can't survive forever, so she just wants to eat some pizza at her favorite restaurant. And even that plot element can be looked into, because we see at the end that she would go to that very restaurant with her late dad as a kid. She wanted to spend her last moments, in a way, with her dad. This is such a powerful human story, all within this grand apocalyptic scenario. And the sound design is just so good. Dead silence, just ambient noise throughout most of the film, so when there is a noise, you're fucked. It's such a good idea for these monsters to not see, only hear, which they do extremely well, so every scene is so tense because if you make a noise, you're gonna get killed. Which leads to some chilling scenes, like with the hundreds of people all walking in silence down the road, to the only lifeboats, and if one person makes a sound, everyone dies, which ends up happening. The movie never cuts away to show other people's interactions with monsters, or showing big shots of everyone, because the movie solely follows the main characters. We are put in their shoes, and some might feel they rushed to the monsters crash landing on Earth, but from Sam's perspective, it did happen suddenly, with no warning. Throughout the whole film, there's a sense of doom, for obvious reasons, but there's a bit of peacefulness. The world is quiet. At long last, the yelling and screaming have ended. All that is left is whispers and the rain. The acting is some of the best I've seen in horror. Joseph Quinn and definitely Lupita Nyong'o. Even though they just met, they play these people so well as friends. Even though they just met. It's just simple human camaraderie in this dark time. Even in the darkest moment for humanity. They play these characters with such love for their fellow man. They sell every scene just through their eyes. Their face and expressions tell the story, and tell you more about what these characters are feeling and going through than any other normal movie. Now, there are issues with the film, but just looking at what this film is, it's fantastic. A fantastical alien invasion scenario, but told as a slice of life from regular people. Overall, I couldn't have a better horror movie. What an excellent film to be in 5th place. And now, getting closer and closer to the best movie of the year, right before the podium, in place number 4. Now, what movie could possibly get this spot? A movie that had to be excellent, better than Oscar nominees, better than movies I've praised to high heaven. What could be that good? None other than Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. This is not a bit, I repeat, this is not a bit. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 gets 4th place as the best film of the year. Now, if you've seen my previous year ranking video for 2023, you may have seen that my number 1 pick for that year was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And I still stand by that decision to give it that spot. I still think that film is surprisingly really great. Great story, cinematography, music, setting, lore, horror, kills, messages, everything I could ask for in a movie. And literally nobody else agrees with me. But it still made money, so they began an entire cinematic universe called the Twisted Childhood Universe, where they adapt all sorts of classic Disney and fairy tale stories into horror movies, all in one connected universe. And Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2 would be the first true movie in this universe. And my expectations were high. They made the first movie on a shoestring budget, with the actors and filmmakers having near no experience making a major motion picture, and it still turned out my number 1 movie of all of 2023, and one of my top 10 horror movies period. So now, with a massive increase in budget, talent, and experience, my expectations were as high as can be. The budget was increased by over 10 times the previous. The first Blood and Honey was made with a measly $50,000, and now it's being made with over $500,000. And this film would be the launch of an entire cinematic universe, the Pooniverse, with every future movie in this universe hinging on the quality of this very movie. So needless to say, expectations were high. And now it's released. I finally got a chance to see it. And what do I think? I did make a full, in-depth review if you want to watch that. But to really condense my thoughts and put it simply, it's not as good as the first, but it is very close. Just to start, if there's one thing that was missing from the first film, it was that it didn't exactly have the feel of a big Hollywood movie. Now that's not to say it didn't feel cinematic. It just didn't have the grandiose 4K vibe of something like the new Halloween films. But this movie, holy shit, does it feel like a real blockbuster? The budget definitely shows. It feels so much more realistic, and that might also be due to the new prosthetics for Pooh and Friends. Instead of cheap masks, it's actual handmade prosthetics. And personally, while I would want them to keep the designs more accurate to the first, they still look amazing in this one. They are so expressive. They feel so much more realistic and human. They don't have to hide their facial features. They can really zoom in and show their expressions. It adds way more immersion. They really flesh out the world and the story. They add in so many new settings and characters. Speaking of which, all the new characters are great. Christopher's parents were likable, same with his younger sister. They feel like great additions to the cast. One other thing I really like is that they actually explored the impact of the previous events, especially on the character of Christopher Robin. He's accused of being a killer, and he does his best to redeem what he believed he caused. He feels guilt over abandoning Pooh, which led to Pooh becoming a killer and committing the 100-Acre Wood massacre. In his mind, that blood is on his hands, so he dedicates his time working at a hospital, trying to save lives, to hopefully make up for the lives he feels responsible for taking. They make Christopher Robin, and all of the new characters, feel like real people with arcs and personalities. They aren't just checkboxes for a kill count. And this praise can also apply to the animal characters as well. One of the best aspects of the first movie is the backstory and characterization of Pooh and Piglet. The movie was centered on them and their motivations, and they continue to give a lot of focus to the characterization of Pooh and Friends. They fully flesh out the personalities of all of them, from Pooh to Piglet, making them stand out as characters and feel more real. And that is partly because they gave them a lot of dialogue. The dialogue elevates them a lot. Now, outside the plot, there are some other aspects I want to acknowledge. One being the CGI. I appreciate that they used the CGI sparingly. They mostly stuck to purely practical effects, for both the characters and the kills. The only times they really did use CG was for a couple of kills that couldn't be done practically. And Tigger's tail, which looks good most of the time. Now, I've been doing just positives so far, but I do have some negatives. My biggest personal gripe with the movie is the origin they give to Pooh and Friends. Because it turns out that every one of the characters, from Pooh to Piglet to Tigger to even the owl, were all genetic experiments by one rogue scientist decades ago. And they reveal the twist that Winnie the Pooh is actually Christopher Robin's long-lost brother, who was kidnapped when they were children. What the fuck? The whole movie is building up to it too. It's an overarching subplot about Christopher remembering his brother being kidnapped, but not remembering who did it. And eventually he remembers, thanks to a voodoo therapist, don't ask, and then the dude that he remembered told him a scientist experimented on a bunch of kids and turned them into anthropomorphic animal thingies, and Christopher puts two and two together. It is definitely not what I expected from this movie. Now, they could have easily messed that up and ruined the movie, but even though I'm not a fan of that story point in general, they still make it work in the movie itself. It is an interesting story, I just don't like the idea. But that's just me, and the plot they did go with works within the confines of the story. Some parts of the movie are pretty goofy and comical, ones you really can't take seriously, but they play into that. I think it's intentional. They've clearly seen the reaction to the first movie. They know how badly looked upon their movies are, so they play into that. It's a smart move. There's even a subplot about how an in-universe movie studio turned the 100 Acre Wood Massacre into a movie, and people like Christopher make fun of this movie. And when they show it on screen, it was literally just clips of the original Blood and Honey. It's good self-deprecation. Overall, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2 is excellent. I know I'm alone in thinking this, but they really did go all out. It's so great to see actual, passionate, creative, good filmmakers hit it big, and be able to go all out with their ideas in an entire universe. And if their future movies are as good as this one is, then I'm all for it. Because they know how to reinvent classic stories, to make them anew for the next generation, to tell stories in new and interesting ways, and that's hard to come by. So I stand by the fact that these movies are some of the best horror movies I've ever seen. This movie lived up to my hype to make a fantastic movie which truly, truly deserves to be at none other than 4th place as the 4th best movie of the year. And with that, that's going to be the end of this section of the ranking, the second to last. The next section is the podium. After all this, we'll finally be at the top 3. And I also hope you'll stick around to see it. After so many parts, I can finally get to the very best. So hopefully I'll see you later, but at least for this video, I'm Calvin Minson, and thank you for watching.